Tansy, Tanacetum vulgare, is a perennial herbaceous flowering plant of the Aster family. It's native to temperate Europe and Asia, and it has been introduced to other parts of the world, including North America. In some areas, it's become invasive. It's also known as common tansy, bitter buttons, cow bitter, or golden buttons, and the Latin word vulgare means common. Now, tansy is a flowering herbaceous plant that emerges first, especially in my region. It has finely divided compound leaves, and in the summer, yellow button-like flowers. It has a stout, somewhat reddish, erect stem, usually smooth, 50 to 150 centimeters tall, and branches near the top. The leaves are alternate, long, and pinnately lobed, divided almost to the center into about 7 pairs of segments or lobes, which are again divided into smaller lobes, having saw-toothed edges, giving the leaf a fern-like appearance. It absolutely looks like a fern. We'll just blow that up for you. Now, tansy is native to Eurasia, is found in almost all parts of mainland Europe as well as Britain and Ireland, and is absent from Siberia and some Mediterranean islands. The ancient Greeks may have been the first to cultivate this medicinal herb. In the 16th century, it was considered to be necessary for a garden in Britain. Tansy has a long history of use. It was first recorded as being cultivated by the ancient Greeks for medicinal purposes in the 8th century AD. And it was grown in the herb gardens of Charlemagne and Benedictine monks of the Swiss monastery of St. Gall. Tansy was used to treat intestinal worms, rheumatism, digestive problems, fevers, sores, and to bring out measles. During the Middle Ages and later, high doses were used to induce abortions. Contradictorily, tansy was also used to help women conceive and prevent miscarriages, especially by Native Americans. In the 15th century, Christians began serving tansy with Lenten meals to commemorate the bitter herbs eaten by the Israelites. Tansy was thought to have the added Lenten benefit of controlling flatulence brought on by days of eating fish and pulses, but more importantly, preventing the intestinal worms believed to be caused by eating the fish during Lent. Tansy was used as a face wash and was reported to lighten and purify the skin. In the 19th century, Irish folklore suggested that bathing in a solution of tansy and salts would cure joint pain. Now let's talk about some other qualities, like insect repellent. Tansy has been cultivated and used in permaculture by Diamond and others for its insect repellent and the worm warding type of embalming. This was used for embalming. It was packed into coffins and wrapped in funeral winding sheets, and tansy wreaths were sometimes placed on the dead. Henry Dunster, the first president of Harvard, was buried wearing a tansy wreath in a coffin packed with tansy. When God's Acre was moved in 1846, the tansy had maintained its shape and fragrance. And during the American colonial period, meat was frequently rubbed or packed with tansy leaves. And this was to repel insects and delay spoilage. Tansy was frequently worn at the time in shoes to prevent malaria and other fevers. It's been shown, however, that some mosquito species, including Culex pipiens, take nectar from the tansy flower. Tansies can be used in companion planting for biological pest control. That's what we use it for here in the garden. It's planted mostly alongside potatoes to repel the Colorado potato beetle. And so we have tansy all over the areas we grow potatoes here. An actual study found that tansies reduced beetle populations by 60 to 100%. And there's 3 sources for that. In England, tansy is placed on windowsills to repel flies. Sprigs are placed in bed linens to drive away pests, and it's been used as an ant repellent. In the 1940s, Tansy oil mixed with fleabane and pennyroyal and diluted alcohol was a well-known mosquito repellent. Collectors were paid 5 cents a pound for tansy in full bloom. Research has found that tansy extracts do indeed repel mosquitoes, but not as effectively as DEET, but who wants that? I certainly don't. In 2008, researchers in Sweden investigated the use of tansy to repel ticks, showing a 64 to 72% repellency for each oil constituent. This plant is amazing. Many tansy species contain a volatile oil which can cause contact dermatitis, which is really the only thing you have to worry about here. And usually only sensitive individuals. Most people, you do not want to consume large amounts of tansy, but small amounts as in the young stage like this, as an herb or a dewormer, an antiparasitic, is just fine. If taken internally, toxic metabolites are produced as the oil is broken down in the liver. It's highly toxic to internal parasites. And for centuries, tansy tea has been prescribed by herbalists to expel these worms. Tansy is also an effective insecticide, and it's highly toxic to arthropods because it contains thujone. And the U.S. FDA limits the use of tansy to alcoholic beverages only, and the final product of the beverage must be thujone-free. Culinary uses. It was formerly used as a flavoring for puddings and omelets, but it is now almost unknown except in Cork, where it is used in a sauce to accompany dressings. Now, the herbalist John Gerard, in the early 1600s, noted that tansy was well known as pleasant in taste, and he recommended tansy sweetmeats as a special thing against the gout, if for every day a certain space, a reasonable quantity thereof of eating fasting. Now, during the Restoration, a tansy was a sweet omelet flavored with tansy juice. Now, according to liquor historian A.J. Baim, the 19th century Tennessee whiskey magnate Jack Daniels enjoyed drinking his own Jack Daniels whiskey with sugar and crushed tansy leaf. For many years, tansy has been used as a medicinal herb despite its toxicity. 19th century Irish folklore suggests bathing in a solution of tansy and salt as a cure for joint pain. A bitter tea made with tansy flowers has been used for centuries as an anthelmintic to treat parasitic worm infections. And tansy cakes were traditionally eaten during Lent because it was believed that eating fish during Lent caused intestinal worms. Various species of tansy are used to treat migraine, rheumatism, and traditionally tansy was often used for its effects to bring on menstruation or end unwanted pregnancy. And pregnant women are advised not to use this herb. Research published in 2011 identified 3,5-dicafequinic acid, or 3,5-DCQA, and axillaren in tansy as antiviral compounds that are active against herpes simplex virus. And some other final thoughts, and as I said earlier, the Cherokees use an infusion of the plant for backache, also as a tonic, and they would wear it around the waist and shoes to prevent miscarriages. The Cheyenne Indians used an infusion of the pulverized leaves and blossoms for dizziness and weakness. And some traditional dyers use the tansy to produce golden yellow color, and that's from the flowers which have not emerged. Now, the most important thing, and what you should get out of this, is that it can be used as a companion plant, especially with cucurbits like cucumbers and squash. This is a squash hill, and that's why we have tansy here. This plant repels ants, cucumber beetles, Japanese beetles, squash bugs, some kinds of flying insects, including mosquitoes. And dried tansy leaves are used by some beekeepers as fuel in the smoker. So, amazing amounts of uses for tansy. Hope you got something out of the video. I'll show you where we have tansy coming up here. I keep spreading it. It's prolific. and this is one of our potato areas over here. And now that I know what I know about the Colorado potato beetle, I'm going to be planting a lot more tansy. This is some of the first tansy I planted, so in 3 years it spreads almost quite nicely, so it gives you an abundance to work with. And we have tansy coming up here, many other places around the ranch. Hope you got something out of the video. Plants not only provide food, they provide nourishment, they provide medicine, and mostly, they provide solutions in a time when we're really looking for them. Subscribe to the channel, share this with like-minded people, and grow some tansy.